From studios of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, this is Fourth and State. In this edition, we chat with Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois on the presidential race, the Wisconsin Senate race, and the Fiscal Cliff.
Hi, I'm Ernie Franzen. I'm the Associate Editorial Page Editor of the Journal-Sentinel. Welcome to Fourth and State. We're here today with Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, who's here to talk to us about the election and about some other issues. But first, sort of sadly, we have to congratulate him on the victory of the Chicago Bears last night down in Dallas.
Well, listen, after you humbled us in Lambeau Field 2 weeks ago, let us get back up off the floor.
It'll be an interesting season.
Yes.
How do you see the election shaping up? I heard something this morning about the polls are getting sort of tight 2-3 point differences. What do you see, and how do you see Wisconsin playing that role? Why are you here?
I make, as I said to you earlier, a quadrennial trip up here because it seems like Wisconsin is always a key state, a battleground state on the presidency. I was here for John Kerry, for the president 4 years ago, and have come back. And obviously it's going to be close. And we believe the president will prevail, but we've got a lot of work to do. As I went around the state to Appleton and Oshkosh yesterday and spoke to our volunteers, they understand it. They've got a big job ahead of them in terms of getting out the vote. But I think the folks in Wisconsin understand the importance of this election, not just for president, but to make sure that Herb Kohl has the right replacement.
Okay. With the debates coming up, and 3 of them before us, what do you expect to see, and how crucial are those debates to the outcome?
When you think about what's going to happen between now and the election, 3 presidential debates, as we videotape this, and 1 vice presidential debate, there'll be 2 reports on employment that are coming out, and 3 or 4 events we can't even imagine as we sit here. And that's all going to happen in the span of 6 weeks.
Right.
So it's going to be an up and down kind of scenario as I see it. The debates themselves, here's what I've found in the past. The first debate is likely to come out as follows. The president really did a great job, but you know, I was kind of surprised how well Romney did. That is virtually always the review of the first debate. The challenger is not expected to be able to stay on stage with the incumbent.
Yeah.
In this case, you know, and trying to be as objective as a loyal follower of the president can be, Romney has had 23 debate experiences in this campaign in the Republican primary. He has to feel pretty at ease standing behind a podium on a stage. And I know he's taken debate prep very seriously. On the president's side, so is the president. John Kerry is playing the role of Romney in the debate prep.
Oh, is that
They've
right?
been moving around the country, preparing, getting ready around the president's schedule. I think he's going to do just fine. Stay tuned. After the first debate, the second and third usually kind of tell the story about who the winner might be.
So what do you hope to see in the debates? What issues do you hope will get addressed, and what impact do you hope they have?
Well, I think
what do they need to say?
The president needs to focus on the key issue, and the key issue is not the kind of cliche question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I can sure make an argument this country's a lot better off than it was 4 years ago, but the real question is, as they say, elections are all about the future. And the question is, in the next 4 years, which of these 2 individuals is in the best position to move the country forward? I know the president's position. 30 straight months of private sector job creation. Seeing developments around this country in terms of improvements in the stock market, improvements in savings, a beginning of a recovery when it comes to home values. All of these things are positive signs. We want them to move more quickly, but we sure don't want to interrupt them and go back, from our point of view, to an economic approach that created the recession, which I think is the Romney point of view. So that will be the debate. Who can best lead this country forward over the next 4 years?
There is some dissatisfaction, though, that things have not moved forward fast enough. And can Romney ride that to a
He's trying to, and I think his problem is this. There is a genuine question among voters as to what his values are in terms of that economic recovery. This 47% videotape from his fundraiser confirmed the worst fears of his critics, that the man really does view the world a lot differently than most Americans, and views most Americans, in this case 47% of them, as not being responsible individuals because they take advantage of some government program. That, to many people, is a disqualifier. He is not really speaking to the middle-income families, the working families, who need to put a child through college and need a college student loan, or someone who's paid a lifetime into Social Security and Medicare finally receiving benefits, or even a disabled veteran receiving a government check. I think that's been the problem that Romney has faced.
There are some critics who say that with unemployment still this high, it should be difficult for the president to win. And they've asked, why isn't Romney doing better? What is your assessment of that?
I think it gets down to his approach and these insights into his values. He, of course, is proud of his success as a businessman, but when we look at the actual outcome here, job creation was not the first goal at Bain Capital. The first goal was profits, and they did quite well for themselves. They did create some jobs, but they also sacrificed some jobs in the process. So that kind of tells most people that when it came to those formative years in his life, that Mitt Romney was really focused on the business side, the profitability side. They want to make certain the president is focusing on job creation, economic development, and fairness for working families. Those are the things that I think are missing in the Romney message.
Why do you think things haven't gotten better faster?
This is a dramatic change in our economy. I mean, when you take a look at it, there's a book recently out by Thomas Friedman and Michael Mandelbaum. It's entitled "This Used to Be Us." That used to be us.
Right.
And it talks about the end of the Soviet Union, the emergence of so many countries around the world moving toward middle-class status, who not only are customers, they're our competitors. And so it puts a new challenge to the United States. When I travel around Illinois, I can find plenty of good-paying jobs in manufacture, for example, that are going unfilled because the people who are coming out of high school aren't ready for them,
Right.
and they need to take the courses in community college and vocational training to be prepared. But they can make a good wage if they do. Well, there's a transition there from those who thought it was fairly automatic to become middle class to those who know they have to earn their way and learn their way into it.
I think let's talk about something about the Wisconsin Senate race, U.S. Senate race. Obviously, you're familiar with both of the candidates. How do you see that shaping up?
It's a surprise. You know, many people thought Tommy Thompson would walk away with this.
Mm-hmm.
The early numbers suggested it. He went through a bruising primary and made some very serious mistakes in terms of sequencing his fundraising and his television. I've asked some Wisconsin residents. They said, you know, he wasn't on television during a critical period of time. But I think even more important is that some of his views appear not to be in step with most people in Wisconsin. The future of Social Security and Medicare being one of them. He said some things about that which may appeal at a Tea Party rally, but won't make much sense to the working families of Wisconsin. Tammy Baldwin has been going nonstop, raising money as she has to because she's not personally wealthy, but campaigning around the state. And I think people are becoming comfortable with her message. And clearly, if you want to succeed Herb Kohl with a senator from Wisconsin
Right.
who follows him in values, Tammy Baldwin is that person.
Okay, thanks. After the election, probably the biggest issue the country faces is the fiscal cliff that's looming on January 1st. What do you think will happen, and will Congress do something, and what shape will that take?
I'm more optimistic than some.
Okay.
I was on the SimpsonBowles Commission. In fact, I served on there with Paul Ryan.
Okay.
I voted for it. Paul Ryan voted against it, which
Right.
He can explain. I don't quite understand that because I thought it was a balanced, bipartisan approach to reducing the deficit. And we had plenty of votes. All the Republican senators, for example, voted for it. 2 out of 3 of the Democratic senators voted for it, so bipartisan on our side of the table. But having said that, I think it still is going to be the basic game plan for deficit reduction. Put everything on the table. Taxes and revenue, spending and entitlements. Now, I know I'm treading into territory here which is politically dangerous, but I think I'm being honest about it. Unless you put it all on the table, you're going to hit one sector too hard. I think we can do it without damaging economic recovery, being fair to working families, progressive tax code, preserve a basic safety net for those with physical and mental shortcomings that need a helping hand, and do it in a fashion that reduces the deficit by at least $4 trillion over 10 years. The sequencing on it is tough
Right.
because we come back November 13th, a week after the election. Lame duck. And just to explain, means a lot of people sitting there voting are not going to be around in just
Right.
60 days.
Right.
Will they be able to come up with the courage to put together a sequence, a plan in place to reduce the deficit and avoid the cliff? If not, the president said there's going to be no shortcut. We're going to have to do this thing directly. He said he's not going to, for example, allow the Bush tax cuts to go forward for the highest income categories. So he has, I think, a strong hand to play in this conversation.
Is there a chance they'll kick it down the road 3 months, 4 months into 2013?
I think that we need time in the next year, 2013, for the committees, Ways and Means, Finance in particular, to look at the tax code and look at the entitlement programs and do it in a thoughtful way. But I think we have to show good faith, and good faith means we have a down payment going into that 6-month review, for example, that says here's how we're going to reduce the deficit over the next 6 months. And it needs to be balanced. We've got to put revenue on the table. 43 of the 47 Republican senators have signed this Grover Norquist pledge that said we'll never, ever, never raise taxes or revenue under any circumstances. We can't get from there to here in reasonable deficit reduction without bringing revenues in, particularly those taxes on higher income individuals.
The criticism of the president has been that he did not push hard enough on Simpson-Bowles. Do you think he'll do it this time?
I had the pleasure of going to the president the day we announced SimpsonBowles. I happened to be in the White House at a meeting, and I said to him, let me tell you what we're doing here. And he said, it sounds to me like it's a good plan, I need to study it. But since then has said repeatedly, he thinks the parameters of Simpson-Bowles really will be what we turn to. The problem he ran into was obvious. If he announced he was for it, it became Obama budget, as in Obamacare, as in every Republican has to oppose it. So he tried to step back and not make it partisan and just let it basically evolve. And I think it's evolved in a good way. There are 8 senators, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. We're following through. I'm part of this group. We're following through with Simpson-Bowles, and I hope we can work with the president to get it done.
Thank you very much, Senator. We appreciate your appearance on 4th and State, and come back next time. Thanks.
You bet.
Bye-bye.